This video, together with the operation and maintenance manual, will help you carry out maintenance work on the exhaust valve. Descriptions of functions are found in the operating manual, and instructions for maintenance are found in the maintenance manual. Please read carefully all the pages in both manuals that are referred to in the course of the video. After shutting down the engine according to the instructions given in the operation manual and all pumps have been stopped, further preparations have to be made before starting work on the exhaust valve cage as follows. Close the starting air shutoff valve. Open the indicator cocks. Engage the turning gear. Close the exhaust valve air spring supply here. The cylinder cooling water of the corresponding cylinder must be drained according to the instructions given in the maintenance manual. First, close the cylinder cooling water outlet valve here. Next, close the cylinder cooling water inlet valve. Finally, open the cylinder cooling water drain valve of the corresponding cylinder. Disconnect all pipes which are attached to the valve cage. Protect the pipe connections from dirt and damage. Carefully remove this insulation piece, and if it is still hot, protect your hands by using gloves. The expansion piece will be removed with the help of this lifting device, also provided with the engine tools. Slacken first the lower flange. Thereafter the contained oil will be drained from the high pressure pipe through the double pipe ring area by lifting it slightly from its lower sealing seat. Consult the maintenance manual on this procedure. After slackening the upper flange, it must be turned back about 7 turns before the pipe can be removed completely. Also, this ball seat must be treated with utmost care to avoid damaging its surface. Should this ball seat be damaged or in bad condition, it may be repaired with the help of this special milling and lapping device provided with the engine tools. Look up the maintenance manual on this point. Make sure that the stud threads and contact surfaces for the jacks are clean and undamaged. These are the hydraulic pre-tensioning jacks we are going to use to slacken the exhaust valve cage from the cylinder head. Look in the maintenance manual under the section Hydraulic Pre-tensioning Jacks. Now check carefully all high pressure connections. Make sure that the quick couplings of the high pressure hoses are properly locked. The hydraulic pre-tensioning jacks are now tightened until the clearance at X is very little or zero. The release valve of the high pressure pump must be kept open in order to do this. Do not forget that when slackening, the hydraulic jacks must be turned back by about 3/4 of a turn. Otherwise the jacks cannot be removed. Look up the maintenance manual on this point. Start the high pressure pump and keep the vent screws open until the oil emerges without air bubbles. When loosening, check that the control pins of the pre-tensioning jacks always protrude slightly above the upper edge of the piston. Consult the maintenance manual on this point. Please remember to follow all the safety precautions when using hydraulic equipment, especially the use of safety goggles. Remember, protect your eyes. Raise pressure to about 1020 bar so that the nuts can be slackened with the help of this Tommy bar. Finally, turn the nuts back about 1 to 2 turns. Before lowering the pressure completely, check if the nuts can be moved freely. The nuts holding the valve cage are now slack. Remove the jacks and also take off the nuts completely. The valve cage is now ready to be lifted off. Check once more if all pipes have been disconnected before lifting off the valve cage. With this lifting device, which is included in the engine tools, the valve cage can now be lifted off the cylinder head. Note, it is absolutely forbidden to lift the cylinder cover together with the valve cage only on these two eye bolts. Now carefully lift the valve cage from the cylinder cover. After lifting the cylinder cover, the combustion space must always be covered to prevent any dirt ingress. The valve must be protected against damage. For that reason, the valve protector has to be fitted whenever the valve cage is dismounted from the engine. The valve cage is transported to a place where overhaul of the valve will be undertaken. That place should be as free from vibration as possible. Please note that damaged or worn down valve sealing surfaces can be reconditioned. Such work on mnemonic valves may only be carried out by specialised Wärtsilä NSD reconditioning centres. A new spare valve cage or a reconditioned one must always be on board. As a general rule, replace all O-rings by new ones of specified dimensions and quality. Consult the maintenance manual for details. Oil O-rings slightly with clean lubricating oil. The sealing surfaces between the exhaust valve and cylinder head must be carefully checked for cleanliness and possible damage. We strongly recommend fitting a new soft iron ring 2 mm thick between the cylinder head and valve cage at every overhaul. Take great care not to damage the thread of the wasted studs when lowering the valve cage. The correct position of the exhaust valve cage is given by this cylindrical dowel pin. Smear the threads of the wasted studs and contact surfaces with mollycock paste G and make sure that the nuts are tightened onto a clean and smooth surface. Tighten the stud nuts firmly with a tommy bar until fully seated before mounting the pre-tensioning jacks. For later checks, mark the position of the stud nuts on a corner and their position on the valve cage with a felt tip pen. Open the release valve of the high pressure pump and screw down the pre-tensioning jacks onto the wasted studs completely. Check whether there is no or very little clearance at the gap X. Look up the maintenance manual on this detail. Check the proper nut seating with the feeler gauge. Start the high pressure pump and keep the vent screws open until the oil emerges without air bubbles. Slowly raise the pressure exactly to 1000 bar. Attention should be paid when the pressure is rising that this pin always protrudes slightly above the upper edge of the jack. Keep the pressure constant at 1000 bar and tighten the stud nuts with a tommy bar until the nuts are firmly seated on the exhaust valve cage. Check with the feeler gauge that the nuts are making proper contact before lowering the pressure. After removing the jacks, ascertain that the two nuts have been turned by about the same angle of approximately 165 degrees. Now we reconnect all the pipes in the reverse order. The expansion piece has to be fitted in such a way that the internal protection pipe of the expansion piece is pointing in the gas flow direction. The arrow indicates the correct orientation. Lightly smear the expansion piece connecting screws with a heat-resistant lubricant. Check carefully that the sealing faces of the high pressure pipe as well as the landing faces in the sealing rings are clean and undamaged. The pressure pipe flange shall be screwed to the pressure pipe in such a way that after tightening all screws crosswise, the clearance X1 is parallel and amounts to about 3 mm. Check it once more with the feeler gauge after tightening the screws. Look up the maintenance manual on this point. Here also, after tightening crosswise all screws, the clearance X must be parallel and should amount to about 3 mm. Check it with the feeler gauge and look up the maintenance manual again. Now we restore the engine to the original conditions. Close the cylinder cooling water drain valve. Open the cylinder cooling water inlet and outlet valves. Open the exhaust valve air spring supply again. Start the oil and water pumps. Finally, all connections must be checked so they make a complete seal against any water or oil leakage. Before starting the engine, follow strictly all indications in the operating manual stated under preparations before taking into service. Every time after the exhaust valve high pressure pipe has been involved in an overhaul, check while the engine is running if the flange connections of the hydraulic pipes are free of leakage. This is done by removing the screw plug behind the actuator pump. No oil must flow in this leakage oil leak bore. Should you have questions, be it on the subject of this instruction film or any other aspect of maintenance and operation of SULZER engines, please call upon the nearest Wärtsilä NSD service representative. We should be happy to be of assistance.